Welcome. Welcome to a very different and interesting lecture today. Normally, you and I meet for discussing questions of verbal ability, English language section. We meet for discussing what to do in interviews or in the group discussion process, or we meet for discussing what to do in general in the competitive exams. But today we are meeting for a very interesting thing, and that is, yes, discussing books and book lists. An idea, a topic which is very close to my heart, right? But before we discuss the books and the book list, let's see why and how we came out with this session, and see whether you can connect with the reasons for which we are doing this session. So, idea behind these sessions. Some of the queries, as with these special sessions, all these special sessions are designed based on the queries, general queries that we get from your side. So, one of the major queries that we have been getting for a long time now is, sir, you tell us to read books, but which book or which author to start with? How do we know that we pick up this or that one, right? So, a very relevant query. And for people who have not been habitual readers, it's very difficult to identify from where to start, right? Agreed. So that's one query that led us to think that we really need these kind of sessions. Then, how to diversify reading? See, whoever is preparing for competitive exam, we have been always suggesting them to read eclectic. Read from varied sources, diversify the reading. Now, how do I diversify the reading? As a student, most students do not have that data point, but from where do they pick up the books and the authors, and which kinds of books and which kind of authors should they pick up so that they can diversify their reading, right? Okay, so that's something. That's the second query. The third, I'll not say a query, but which led us to think is that, sir, we have limited time. We have 7 months to 8 months to prepare for an exam, or at the most 1 year to prepare for an exam. So, we'll have to have a list which has to be manageable, right? And this is one query which led us to ask the students who asked this query that, don't you get book list from various forums that are there, reading forums, book discussion forums, review forums, and they said that you go once to those forums and you know what's the problem, why it does not fit our bill. And we went there to those forums and and we asked the kids too. So, they were of the opinion, and we also got that opinion from those forums, is that the lists are so vast that it is practically very impossible for a student who is preparing for competitive exam to even think of starting with that list. And secondly, those lists are classified in an order which does not suit our purpose. Our purpose is to read diverse. Those lists are normally ordered topic wise or genre wise. So, that does not really suit our purpose. Then, the last question, and a very important one from the student side: why do I get these books? So, today in this session we are going to solve all these queries, all these 4 queries, and maybe answer some more, right? So, agenda of today: sharing with you the book list and the list of authors. Most importantly, book list, I think more important than book list is the list of authors. So, we have sort of merged both these two together and created a combo list for you. Okay. So, sharing with you the book and the author list. Also, we have classified the books according to levels. Now, for starters, you can understand that these are level of difficulty: level 1, level 2, level 3. In a moment, I will share with you on what basis I have classified them into levels. And thirdly, this list would be around 85 to 90 books, but keeping in mind that your exams might be, or you are preparing for something which is 6 months, 7 months down the line. So I have taken the opportunity to also identify those books amongst these 85 to 90 which are highly recommended. So at least go through these books before before you can call yourself a mediocre read person. If you go through all these 85-90 books, you would be, believe me, you would be a well-read person. And then you would not need to ask anyone what to read, because you'd already know what to read. You would know what next to read, which would excite your interest, which would give you an idea of exploring your boundaries, right? And remember, this is a book list. This is a starting book list. Your reading does not end when you complete all these books. Your reading starts with starting this book list, but your reading never ends. Your reading would end the day you think that you have nothing to learn, you think that you have nothing to do in your life, then you can end your reading. But that's something that's not going to happen very soon, I suppose. Hence, be very, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I want to set the mental, expectations first before moving on to the book list. I don't want anyone thinking that I have read these 80 books or 70 books, my reading is done. No, even if in this book list you have read most of these books, your reading is not done. You have to graduate yourself as a reader. You'll have to graduate yourself as a person. Similarly, you'll have to graduate yourself as a reader too, right? But remember, this list, as a starting, you obviously can go on with this list. As a person who is a medium read person, he can also refer to this list very easily, because there will be a lot of books you might not have heard about or you might not have read, but it's not a comprehensive list. As a matter of fact, I think no book list can be a comprehensive book list, and everyone tastes differ. These books are based on my own reading experiences and my experiences of discussing books and stories with my fellow students and colleagues across the year, across my training, the years that I have been training for the last 11-12 years. So obviously I understand that there might be books that I have missed that are as important, and there might be books which I have deliberately not put into this list because I wanted to limit the size of this list, right? So if you think that there are books that necessarily need to be added to this list, you're welcome to add on to your recommendation, add on your recommendation to this list by putting in the comment section. Okay, right? So let's move on. I tell you, I have already told you that the levels have been decided, level 1, level 2, level 3 of books. So for starters, I told you to imagine that they are difficulty levels, but essentially they are not only difficulty levels. How have I come to these level parameters? How have I designed these book list on the basis of levels, and what were the consideration between the levels? I'll tell you. The first thing that was in my consideration while determining the levels was concept. The concept on which this book has been written, or the story has been written, whether it is an abstract concept or whether it is a concept which is directly related to something that you are normally familiar with, right? So if it's a concept which is very unfamiliar, I have kept it at a higher level, right? For example, let's say if there is a book which compares or which analyzes dreams, then the levels, because it's a concept that we are not very familiar with, we will automatically keep it at a higher level. And the next consideration in determining the level was language, the difficulty level of vocab, the writing style, whether the writing style was difficult or easy to understand, or whether the writing style was classic or contemporary. You see, classic authors had a way of putting their a way of putting their words in a way, in a manner which nowadays readers are not very comfortable understanding. Whereas contemporary writers of nowadays write in a manner which you understand much faster. So please understand this, that language makes a lot of difference. So when we read classic writers, we feel sometimes a little bored or a little things are not moving in the direction that we want to understand them in whichever way. So that's because that their writing style is different. So that writing style and their uses of words had also been considered as a part of the level decision. And the last one was length. So if a book is a long read, then even if it is easy written very comfortably, written in a way that you can understand it very comfortably, but still it as a book, it would take a lot of time to complete, and you are limited on time. So time needs to be a consideration when it comes to level 1, 2, 3, right? So therefore concept, language, length. Now understanding the list, I will give you the list. From the next slide I will be giving you the list, but before that you need to remember some things. What in this list I have used a lot of labels. So what do they mean? The first label means that some specific words I have used. For example, I have classified the books and I have listed the book, the category of the book and the author of the book. Now category, what is category? Category, unlike fiction, non-fiction, that is we normally get in our in any forum, I have gone forward and classified these books into categories. And what are the categories I have picked in? I have picked in the same categories that we use in Merit-Shine Force, right? So in the Force program, we take RCs from different categories and we classify the categories of the RCs that we have taken in from, so that you as readers start identifying categories of books with RCs and RCs with categories. Therefore, I thought that it makes a lot of sense if we divide the categories in the way we have divided the Merit-Shine Force categories, right? So let me show you. In Merit-Shine Force, we have these categories, right? History, then culture and sociology, philosophy and psychology, self-development. Now self-development is not a specific category in Merit-Shine Force program, in our Force program, but it is the passages of this comes in the miscellaneous category. There is a miscellaneous category too in Force, hai na? Now economics and management, we have economics and management, science and technology and sports. Now sports and entertainment, we have made that category one category in Force, but here I have taken the liberty to make that category into two categories. Also art and literature is a category in Merit-Shine Force. Now that has been included in the entertainment segment only. So I have broken the sports and entertainment category into two, and in the entertainment category only I have included the art and literature segment, right? So in entertainment segment there are banking specific, fiction of banking, non-fiction of banking, classics, fantasy fictions, humor, then legal fictions, mostly legal fictions. We haven't taken any legal non-fiction. Then mythology fiction on mythology, non-fiction on mythology, right? So these are the categories that we have divided the books in. Now this is something that we have done for that is something has happened for the first time anywhere. So we have divided them into categories that you can relate to your competitive exam. Achha, why is it so? Let me come on the screen. Why is it so? Simple, because all of you are taking competitive exams. Yes, book reading over a long period of time is going to make you a very good person, a well-read person, but in the medium term, you need them to help you in your competitive exams too. Yes, I am talking about medium term and not short term. So do not look at anything beyond 6-7, anything lesser than 6-7 months. So any change or any improvement, big improvement that would come to you within 6 to 7 months, right? It might come earlier too, but that's a time that you need to give to book reading. 6 to 7 months, 1 week, every week one book, right? So that's how it would come. So if I can relate to your RC practices, the books that you would read, you automatically can pick and choose from the list from the areas that you are not good at, from the areas that interest you. From Meritshine Force program, you already know that what kind of RCs you get from what kind of categories, and which kind of categories is causing most pain to you. So this is going to help you directly in your competitive exam, right? So and the last indicator that you need to look out for is the green boxes. Now green boxes are the highly recommended ones. I told you, we will out of the whole list of 85 to 90 books, we will give around 30 to 40 books that are highly recommended. That is something that you should look at first to read. Okay, so let's start off with the list. Level 1 book or author list. Books, category, author, these are the three things that we will see. So the first one in level 1, the first author that we are going to take in level 1 is Dr. Apj Abdul Kalam. Now the books of Dr. Apj Abdul Kalam: Ignited Minds, Wings of Fire, Vision 2020. Ignited Minds is self-development book. Wings of Fire and Vision 2020 both related to very much related to science and technology, right? Where Ignited Minds is also related to science and technology, but you can also categorize it as a self-development book. It's a motivation book also. So do you need to read all these three? Now you see, this green means that you should read something that has been written by Dr. Apj Abdul Kalam. But does that mean that you need to read all three? No, read any two or at least one out of these three. Okay, 1 to 2 out of these three. I would prefer 2 out of these three. Now, the next author or the next book rather is a series called Shiva Trilogy, and the author is Amish Tripathi. Now, Amish Tripathi has written a lot of books, 3 books in Shiva Trilogy and an ongoing series which is Ramchandra Trilogy, I suppose. Now, the Shiva Trilogy had is a series that I feel had been written with a lot of more originality and with less opinions, more openness towards questioning the rules of society, right? So I recommend, if I had to recommend, I always recommend Amish Tripathi's Shiva Trilogy rather than the other books, because that had a flair to it. Now, do you need to read all books? No. Even if you read one book, you would get an idea of the writing style. And what is the category? The category is entertainment mythology. Entertainment mythology is the category. So he writes mythological fictions. Now the next author in our list is Chetan Bhagat. What are the books that he has written? He has written quite a lot number of books, but my suggestion would be go on with any one of these two, 5 Point Someone or 3 Mistakes of My Life. You can obviously take any other book of his and read it. That's up to you. No doubt about that. But try and read at least one out of these 2 books. So try and read at least one out of these 2 books if you haven't read. And if you have read these 2, then it's okay. But if you haven't read any one of these, try and read this one. Any one of these 2. Now, 5 Point Someone is his first book, and considered one of his most sensible and better works in rather than the later of his works. But and there had been films on 5 Point Someone, 3 Idiots have been inspired from 5 Point Someone. So you can just pick up and read that. Next author, please understand these 2, the Shiva Trilogy or Amish Tripathi or Chetan Bhagat, there is no green here. That means these are recommended but not amongst the highly recommended category. So if Dr. Apj Abdul Kalam's books are highly recommended, out of which 2 is something that I highly recommend. Out of these 3, any 2 is highly recommended. But here it's not the issue. So even if you have read some, or if you haven't read some, if you think that you would give them a miss and you would read them later on, you can do so. J.K. Rowling. Now again another green. Fantasy fiction, entertainment, ENT entertainment, fantasy fiction. And her best known work is obviously Harry Potter, 7 books of Harry Potter. But I don't want you to read the whole series. Just read one book to get an idea about what the Harry Potter world is like and how simply you can write and capture the imagination of the globe. You know J.K. Rowling, the phenomenon of J.K. Rowling. From being a single mother who did not have money to raise her children, she is now Britain's richest woman, richer than the Queen Elizabeth. So how did she achieve it? Obviously, she worked a lot. I mean, she worked a lot on the plot, and she worked a lot harder than we can realize to make this happen, to make Harry Potter happen. But how did it happen? One of the reasons is that her ability to connect to children with a book, with a storyline which is not as childish as people would believe. So Harry Potter is not a childish story, but you could connect to children with a story which was not very childish. Is something of a huge talent. So that's what J.K. Rowling did. So one book of her is definitely something that you should read. Jack Canfield is our next author on the list. And out of these 2 books, Chicken Soup for Teenage Soul, he has written almost all the Chicken Soup series books. But what I want is either from Chicken Soup for Teenage Souls or Chicken Soup for Young Adults. Either from these 2 books, you pick up any one book and read. Now, what is this Chicken Soup series? Now, Chicken Soup series is a self-development series. He shares stories about children from different age group. If in young adults from the age group of 16 to 21, and their life stories, the stories that help them change and transform their lives. So when we listen to people whose lives have been changed by taking positive steps, we are also motivated to take positive steps towards making ourselves a better person, right? So that's how therefore these mix, and they are easy to read. These are level 1 books. These are easy to read. Therefore, Chicken Soup for Teenage Souls or Chicken Soup for Young Adults, any one of these books you should read of Jack Canfield. The next author on our list is Jeffrey Archer. Jeffrey Archer, again, he has written more than 50 books. Now, which one to pick is very important for us. I would recommend some. Obviously, you can go ahead and pick any one of his books, or any one that you want to read. But these are some of my favorites when it comes to Jeffrey Archer: The Fourth Estate, Cain and Abel, and Prisoner of Birth. Now, Fourth Estate is on media. Fourth Estate in democracy, there are 4 pillars, right? So the fourth one is media, is what we normally call it. So and it's a story that has been written way 30 years back, but it's still relevant today when we look at media being controlled by powerful men, right? So we sort of think that these writers had a notion that things like this can happen and happens. Cain and Abel, a story between two, competitors, two people who were different in every aspect but also similar in many respects, right? So a very beautiful story. A Prisoner of Birth, one of his recent ones, 2007 or 8 published. So you can read them. Entertainment, this comes under the entertainment category, right? Any 2 out of these 3 or out of the other Jeffrey Archer novel would do. And if you have already read Jeffrey Archer more than 2, then you don't need to pick Jeffrey Archer now. If you if you have limitation of time, if you have a lot of time, if you think that you can manage Jeffrey Archer reading alongside other stuff, then you can obviously go ahead and do it. Great. Next, Rashmi Bansal. Now, till now, apart from Dr. Apj Abdul Kalam's books, we have been talking about fiction, and Jack Canfield was again, non-fiction, but Amish Tripathi, Chetan Bhagat, J.K. Rowling, Jeffrey Archer, all of them were the fictions. Now, again, we are coming back to non-fiction. Now, we haven't categorized as fiction and non-fiction, as I told you. Therefore, I'm giving you an idea that which are fiction and which are non-fiction, because you also think about like that which is a storybook and which is not a storybook. So therefore, I thought I will share with you. Now, Rashmi Bansal have written a couple of books, and the best two out of it is Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish and Connect the Dots. So the topic is economics and management. But what are these two books about? Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish is a list of biographies, short biographies about people who have done well, who have been entrepreneurs in the last 20 years, 25 years, and people who have passed out from IITs and have become entrepreneurs, right? So that's Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish. So a lot of technological innovation companies of Indian companies who have been into technological innovation, you will get information about them from Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish. Connect the Dots is again a collection of biography, but this time it's not IITians but graduates from normal colleges, graduates from not the elite colleges of India, right? So Connect the Dots is the story of entrepreneurship for those people. Okay, so very beautifully edited and written and collected. Their life stories would motivate you, would push you to do more. So any one of these, whichever you like, either the first one or the second one, you should read. So this is again green. So if you see, this is green, this is green, this is green, this is green, this is green. That means that either two out of these three you should read. Either one out of any J.K. Rowling's book you should read, either one of Jack Canfield's book you should read, either any two of Jeffrey Archer's books you should read, and Rashmi Bansal's any one you should read. Okay. Now, we are coming to the next is multiple authors. Now, why multiple authors? Because we are talking about short story collection. All genres, short stories are from every genre. Now, what are the good short story books? Now, this is something that I wanted to share with you. Again, this is a green. Why this is a green? Even if you are a good reader and you haven't read a collection of short stories, I would refer, or I will suggest that go and read a short story collection. Okay, 10-15 stories, a short story collection. Now, of different authors, not of one author, but of different authors. Why is it so? First of all, when you read 15 stories of different authors, you automatically read 15 different styles in a single book. You come in touch with with many genres just in a single book in 15 stories, right? So a lot of it's effective that way. First of all, it's very effective that way. Obviously, it does not have the depth and the width and the plot lines of a book, a full-fledged book, but yes, short stories has their own beauty. Now, which books to refer to in short stories? Pick any one of these three. Now, there is a short story collection called Radiant Reader. I don't know whether you would get it. This used to be once recommended by ICSE in their class 9th and 10th. Whether it is still, you need to check. Then Treasure Trove. Currently, Treasure Trove is something that ICSE board refers to as the short story collection book for 9th and 10th. And Rupa Publications 50 Greatest Short Stories. Now, this is something that has collected 50 short stories. But Radiant Reader and Treasure, what is the difference between Radiant Reader and Treasure Trove? Radiant Reader and Treasure Trove also has short stories of Indian writers, whereas 50 Greatest Short Stories does not have any Indian writer. It has American writers, Russian writers, English writers, but no Indian writers. So you can pick any one of them. You can pick any one of them and you can read it. Especially, this is a suggestion for those who have not read or who are not very good readers or who have not read many books in their life till now. they can start with a short story collection. It would do two things. First, it would pick their interest in reading. It would it would give them a satisfaction that they have read so many authors and so many stories in a very short span of time. So if you pick up the first book as short story collection, it will be very helpful, right, for you. So those who are not into reading much, they can pick up the short story collection, and they are very effective too. That day, the other day, Abhishek and I were discussing, we were just talking about our old days, our school life, and we were just comparing how many stories we can remember of our 9th and 10th. And we were surprised to see from the short story collection, together we could remember around 6-7 stories, right? So they are so effective. After so many years, decades that we have passed our 9th and 10th, we could remember them. So they are very effective too. Now, this was one part of the list. Now let's move on to the other books. Level 1. The next author is Ravi Subramanian. Now Ravi Subramanian writes books on banking, but fiction on banking. So these are some of his books. If God Was a Banker, Bankster, Incredible Banker. Read any two of his books and that would be good for you. He has written more than this, but read any two of his books. And especially those who are going for management studies, those who are going for a banking profession, they should read Ravi Subramanian's books, because he talks about fiction he creates stories of with respect to banking. So his characters, his hero would be a person who is a banker, or his anti-heroes would be people who are bankers or related to banking. He would talk about money laundering. He would talk about siphoning of funds to foreign locations. All of this stuff in story form you would be learning from him. So this is something that would be very exciting and educating too. So Ravi Subramanian is highly recommended. Then the next one is Lightning Thief, again entertainment, fantasy fiction, and the writer is Rick Riordan. Again, this is a part of a series. The series, there are a lot number of books in that series. Lightning Thief is the first book. There has been a film also on this series. So on this book, Lightning Thief. Next, Malguri Days. Now you can see this is green, which means that this is something that I would want, I highly recommend. Okay, Malguri Days, again short stories of all genres, and R.K. Narayan, one of the most prolific Indian writers of all times, R.K. Narayan. Malguri Days. There used to be when we were kids, Malguri Days was televised, and we would eagerly wait for those stories to come. Weekly once it used to come in the DD National Television. So we were very eager to see what would happen next. And Malguri Days because Malguri Days were stories which were very related to the soil, very related to very Indian stories. We don't get a lot of Indian stories. Contemporary Indian stories, but Malguri Days were such like that. It felt like as we are seeing something happening in front of us, of our times, of our days. Next, Beyond the Last Blue Mountain, a non-fiction business biography, rather economics and management. This is the biography of Jrd Tata, Bharat Ratna. He was honored with Bharat Ratna, Jrd Tata, one of the pioneers of the Tata Group. Jamshedji Tata was the founder of Tata Group in around 1910s, 11. But the person who made Tata Group what it is today is Jrd Tata, and he was instrumental in creating the huge, the industries, the huge conglomerate that Tata is today. Obviously, it was made larger and even more intimidating by Ratan Tata, the adopted son of Jrd Tata. But Jrd Tata was someone who was highly respected in the business community, and not only that, he was very highly respected in the in the society also. His social work, his work for the society has been is something which has been unmatched by anyone, any businessman from then onwards. And the beauty is that most of his social works have gone, no one knows about them because he did not market them as such, right? So Jrd Tata's biography, a beautiful one. Before moving on to Spencer Johnson, I will like to tell you one thing about Jrd Tata. When I read this book, I came to know that Jrd Tata was one of the finest pilots in the world, not only in India, in the world. He created Air India, he founded Air India, he created Air India, which was later nationalized by Indira Gandhi during the 1970s to a national airlines. But before that, it was a part of the Tata Group. Now, Jrd Tata, apart from being a great pilot, he was a great man too. In the Sino-India War, in the India-China War of 1960s, when his pilots were not ready to take the letters of the soldiers from Calcutta to Bombay to Northeast, then Jrd Tata, what did he do? He went forward and boarded he captained one flight of mails and took it to Northeast to deliver the mails to the soldiers. So the pilots that were there in the Tata Group, they were like, if J can do it, why not we? So they, that's called leading from the front kind of stuff. So a very beautiful book. I haven't given it in green because it's a biography of one person only. So if you have time, you definitely go through it. If you ask me, it's highly recommended. But because you have time limitation, you might keep it for later on. Not in the first 6 months, but later on. Spencer Johnson, 2 books, both highly recommended by me. 1 Minute Manager and Who Moved My Cheese, both on self-development. Though you can say that 1 Minute Manager is about management, but still I'll keep it in self-development because it's about managing oneself, right? Both these books are definitely read, very short books, 120, 130 pages, both these books, but very effective books. It will change the way you plan your activities, plan your day, you think about yourself, right? And very interesting too, both these books. Okay, next, Men of Steel by Veer Sanghvi. Economics and management. Now, Men of Steel, this refers to all the top business tycoons of 1950s to 1990s. Okay, so Veer Sanghvi had made a biography of around 10 to 12 business tycoons of those time, and Jrd Tata was also amongst the list, and it's a short biography. So if you want to read, because this is a long read, if you want to read, this is a short read, read biographies, I would suggest start with this, a 250 page read, and you know about 10 business tycoons of from 1950s to 90s. Then the next one, Inimitable Jeeves, humor, entertainment, humor category, comedy category, and author is P.G. Wodehouse. You can read it. It's a very it's a very funny book. You would love it. You'd like it because of its funniness. And you see, you can read anything else of P.G. Wodehouse too, but if you want to start with anything, start with Inimitable Jeeves. Now, the next category, so this is more or less all the level 1 books. Now, the last level 1 category is sports. I have collected 5 sports men's biographies and autobiographies. Pick any 2 out of them and read. Unbreakable, Mary Com's autobiography. Race of My Life, Milkha Singh. Straight from the Heart, Kapil Dev's autobiography. Pele autobiography by Pele. And Muhammad Ali, His Life and Times by Thomas Hauser. Now, Muhammad Ali, there are a lot of biographies of Muhammad Ali, but if you read the, my favorite is the Thomas Hauser ones. So any 2 out of these 5, don't read all the 5, just so that you are familiar with how sports literature is written. You should read 2 out of these 5. Obviously, if you are done with the other books, you can obviously move ahead and read the other sport biographies too, but focus first on completing 2 out of these 5, any 2, whoever you like. If you are a fan of Mary Kom, pick up Unbreakable. If you are a fan of Kapil Dev, pick up Straight from the Heart, right? Or Muhammad Ali, Pele. There are other biographies too, and obviously sports is a huge segment, and there are biographies of, you name it, every good player you would have one biography, but that's your choice, you'll have to choose. But out of these 5, you should at least read 2. Okay, so in level 1, let's look at this count first. Let's look at here. 32 books I have recommended, out of which 14 are highly recommended, these green ones, right? So 2 of Apj Abdul Kalam, 1 of J.K. Rowling, adding on these highly recommended ones are 14. So if in level 1 you have read all the books, okay, but if you have been left with any one of these 14 books, even if you have graduated to level 2 and level 3, I would suggest that you complete those 2 or 3 books that are remaining out of these 14. Okay, so that was level 1. Let's move on to level 2. Level 2 would be a longer list, because as you can understand that level 2 is the medium one, and most of the books should come into this medium category. So this is page 1, slide 1 of level 2. We will the level 2 is in 2 slides. So the first one, book category author. We'll start level 2 with Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie, you can take any one of these 3. Murder on the Orient Express, Murder is Announced, and Then There Were None. The first one is Hercule Poirot novel. Hercule Poirot is the detective in here. These are all entertainment detective category. Hercule Poirot's novel, this is Miss Marple novel, and this is a general one. Okay, so you can take any one of these, or if you already are reader of Agatha Christie, you can take any other if you like. Okay, so my suggestion is, my recommendation is, Agatha Christie you should have read 2 out of all Agatha Christie's creation. My recommendation are these 3. Out of these 3 you can pick up 2, so that you know who is Poirot, who is Marple, and have an idea about it. Marple was a lady detective, Poirot was a male detective, right? They have 2 different series of Agatha Christie, one of Poirot and one of Marple. So if you're a Marple fan, go on with Marple. If you're a Poirot fan, go on with Poirot. But I suggest you go through this one also. It's an amazing cult, detective novel. And Then There Were None. There was a Hindi film that was made on this. I don't know whether you have heard about it. Manoj Kumar's Gumnaam. So Gumnaam was loosely inspired from And Then There Were None. But the story is much better than the film. So you can go ahead and enjoy it. Then next, Anand Nilkanthan. Anand Nilkanthan is an author that I highly recommend, not only because for the reason of his using a very different way of portraying mythological events, but also for his writing style. So the one book is Asura, and another series is Ajaya series. Currently he is also writing the Bahubali prequels. Okay, but my recommendation is amongst these 2 books, or one series and one Asura. Pick up one and read. Entertainment mythology category. Okay, next, Da Vinci Code. Now Da Vinci Code, all of you know, Angel and Demons, Dan Brown's from entertainment category. I haven't marked it green, so it's not highly recommended, but obviously it's recommended. So one Dan Brown you must have read, and these 2 are one of the better ones. Chanakya's Chant is something that I recommend, Ashwin Sanghi. Ashwin Sanghi has written a lot, Rosable Line, Krishna Key, but till date I love Chanakya's Chant the best. But if you have other books of his and you want to read it, go ahead and read it. Again, another green, highly recommended ones. So, Freedom at Midnight, history, non-fiction. It chronicles the story of our freedom to an extent, the before and after. Dominic Lepierre's a very good and to an extent not very biased historical treatise. So, Freedom at Midnight, definitely a very highly recommended one. Now, this one, the goal, it's from economics and management, and it's written by a person named scientist named Ilahu Goldratt. This is something which is highly recommended for everyone, but very highly recommended for all engineering and science graduates, right? So if you are an engineer or a science graduate and you haven't read this, please grab a copy and read this. It's a very important. I mean, it would open your eyes on things like management and finance and operations, how they are linked with each other, how an organization needs everything to survive, right? So during the interviews we get a lot of questions, sometimes very innocent questions but very dangerous ones. Is that, sir, I was not interested in marketing, I was not interested in finance, vagera, therefore I want to get into this particular field in organization. But the problem is that they do not understand that every field in the organization is very interlinked, right? So this book gives you that idea of interlinking and how beautiful that interlinking is. Next, The Old Man and the Sea, highly recommended one. Very small book, 120-110 pages book, a Nobel Prize winning book, Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. Self-development, I have categorized it as self-development because at the end of the day, Old Man and the Sea, when you read it full, please let me tell you, 25-30 pages of Old Man and the Sea and you will not understand it. Read it full, and then when you start thinking, you would realize that how it slowly makes you feel that whatever you do about yourself, you should always be in a move to improve yourself, right? So that's the kind of message that The Old Man and the Sea gives us. Next, George Orwell, a very highly recommended author, and two books of his, Animal Farm, 1984, the novel, both from the category of culture and sociology. At least read one out of these two books. You are going to professionals, and if you have read either one of these books, your ability to understand a lot of cultural and sociological topics would be much enhanced. Business Maharajas, a collection of business biographies by Geeta Piramal. If Men of Steel by Veer Sangvi was a small one, I mean a smaller version of Business Maharajas. Business Maharajas takes 6-7 profiles and creates their biography over a page of 300-350 pages, whereas the same Men of Steel does it in 200-250 pages. So obviously you get more information in Business Maharajas, and some are different. I mean, these 6-7 all of them are not same as those 10 in Men of Steel. Book category and author. India Unbound, a highly recommended one in economics and management category by Gurcharan Das. So, this is something anyone who wants to learn about Indian economy and economy in general should read India Unbound. It's a book that everyone should have read once so that they have an idea about how Indian economy works, how 1991 liberalization process happened in a form, in a very easy to understand way. Next, Yuganta, category culture and sociology by Iravati Karve. Iravati Karve was a celebrated author. She had a lot of works in Marathi, okay, and very few works in English. But one of them, Yuganta also had a Marathi version which was translated later on English. It's a political, sociological and cultural analysis of Mahabharata's times, right? So it's a very different way of approaching the Mahabharata in a very not from a fiction perspective, but from an analyst perspective. The role of women, the role of caste during those times. Okay, so a very good read. Isaac Asimov, a highly recommended one. Again, if you talk about Isaac Asimov, he's most known for Foundation series, so therefore I have kept it at the first. But chronologically, if I remember right, Robot was the first series, Empire was the second series, and Foundation series was the third series. So there were a lot of books in each one of these series, but you don't need to read all of them. Read one book out of all these books, that would be enough. That would make you interested in the science and technology field. Science fiction is, as a matter of fact, taking science of today and explorating it to science of tomorrow, right? So you get a real hand experience of how science and technology articles are to be dealt with. Okay, next, John Grisham, again a highly recommended author from my side. He has many good books to his name: The Firm, The Partner, The Pelican Brief. And the beauty of it is, like Ravi Subramanian, if he was entertainment banking, this John Grisham is entertainment legal. So he writes fictions on laws, on legal terminologies. So and you have a lot of Hollywood movies made on his books. Firm, there is a movie on it. I suppose Tom Cruise featured in it. Partner, I don't know whether there is a movie on it, I don't remember. But Pelican Brief, again, Denzel Washington, Julia Roberts featured in it. A very beautiful movie and a very beautiful book. So out of his John Grisham's book, you read any one, that would be enough. But please read one John Grisham, highly recommended, so that you have an understanding of how to deal with legal jargons, how to deal with legal terminologies in an article. Then Lord of the Rings trilogy, again a level 2 book, entertainment fantasy. J.R.R. Tolkien is the writer. Tipping Point, another highly recommended one. Tipping Point is a culture and sociology treatise, different analytical point of view by Malcolm Gladwell. So it opens up your mind to the different kinds of dynamics that we have in our culture and society. The Godfather, an entertainment one, pure masala, Mario Puzo, right? You have a cult movie based on this book and numerous adaptation on this book, right? Our own Ram Gopal Verma's Sarkar was inspired from this book, and there had been so many movies which have been inspired from this book, both in Hollywood and Bollywood and in other parts of India too. Then Michael Crichton, a highly recommended author by me, science and fiction. Jurassic Park, and this is the writer of Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton. If you did not know, Jurassic Park Lost World was written, both Jurassic Park and Lost World were written by him. Though the Lost World story was changed a lot in the movie, but Jurassic Park was more or less same, the story. Prey, The Great Train Robbery. The first two are science and technology related, science fiction, whereas the second one, the third one, The Great Train Robbery, is an entertainment one. Great Train Robbery also, there is a cult movie based on Great Train Robbery, an old movie but a very beautiful movie. So Michael Crichton, you should have read at least, I've forgot to keep it here, but at least one book of his is necessary. The next one in level 2 is My Experiments with Truth, Culture and Sociology, Mahatma Gandhi. And again, this gives you an idea about the father of our nation, and to give the idea about that the society of that time, the culture of that time. Okay, so this was page 1. So if I look at page 1, I have recommended 29 books, and 14 of them are highly recommended ones. So 29 total books have been recommended, 14 highly recommended. Next, level 2, book or author list. Level 2, page 2, the last page of level 2, book, category, author. You have the agenda from category Economics and Management by Michael Hammer. The Millennials Fast Lane, again Economics and Management by MJ DeMarco. Then A Walk to Remember. So out of these two books, before I move on to Walk to Remember, these are Economics and Management, how they are. These two books are books on how to start up your business, how as a business you should be servicing your clients. What are the things if you are looking to create a valuable organization. So these are not those shortcut tricks to riches. No, we are not going to recommend something like that to you. But these books are hardcore. How you, if you do good work, that translates into good results. So if you people, any of you are interested in entrepreneurship, you should definitely look at these two books. Next, A Walk to Remember, entertainment segment by Nicholas Sparks. Now we will come to some Indian writers' translation. For example, Godan, classics in Indian entertainment category by Munshi Premchand. Then a very highly recommended one also, because you should, Munshi Premchand, Rabindranath Tagore, these are writers that you should know about, you should have read. R.K. Narayan, you should have read. So again, as I said, Rabindranath Tagore, classics, entertainment, his novel Gora or short story collection, any one you can take, any short story collection, 15-20 collection of short stories, or one of his novels Gora. And take any one, know about the writing style and know about the way he portrayed his characters. Then Charles Dickens, again an entertainment classic one. The books that you can start with: Tale of Two Cities, Oliver Twist, Great Expectation. Now 3 books: Tale of Two Cities, Oliver Twist, Great Expectation. There are other books of Charles Dickens too, but my recommendation is these 3 books. Any one out of these 3 books would do, but read one Charles Dickens, so that if there is a passage which has written in like the classic times, you are able to identify with them. You Can Win, self-development book by Shiv Khera, and I suppose his first and his best work, right? So the best part of Shiv Khera's You Can Win are the stories, rather than his own assertion. The stories, he had given some beautiful stories about Abraham Lincoln, stories about Gandhi, stories about different people. So these are stories that you can use in your own life also, and you can use them as to quote in your group discussions and interview too, right? So very beautiful stories. Alex Rutherford is the pseudonym for a husband-wife couple who writes in the name of Alex Rutherford. They have written an Empire of the Mughal series. Now there are around 5 books, I suppose, on Empire of the Mughal series, on history, right from Babur. Each book is dedicated to one Mughal. Babur, starting from Babur, then Humayun, then Akbar, then Jahangir, right, so on. So I suggest read at least one book of it. If you want to read either Babur or the Akbar one, both of these books were very good. I liked the Humayun one too, but Babur one was something of which I liked best out of this series. Very well written. Then you can read Hermann Hesse's Siddharth, philosophy and psychology category. Siddharth is a story of a young man during the times of Gautam Buddha. Gautam Buddha, like Gautam Buddha, he also attained enlightenment, but in a very different way than Buddha. So in a sense, the Hermann, this is a very beautiful story, and had been acclaimed across the world a lot. There was a movie made by I suppose the Ivory Merchants on this book. Shashi Kapoor played the titular character, and so the idea of this book is that the road to enlightenment would be different for different people, right? So Gautam Buddha got enlightened in a different way, Siddhartha got enlightened in a different way, right? So you can read it if you are into philosophy and psychology. The next highly recommended author is William Dalrymple. Now William Dalrymple writes on history. Two of his books, any one you can read, City of Jinn or Kohinoor. He has written other books too, but these two books I have read and I know about them and I like them. So any one you can read. Okay, so that was level 2. In this page of level 2, if you see, I have recommended 14 books, out of which highly recommended ones are 5. 5 books are highly recommended. Okay, right? Next, level 3, the last level, and obviously this would be the shortest one too, because I don't want you to bang your head on level 3 when you are preparing for competitive exam. Read some, that would be all. You don't need to read many. Yes, if you have interest, you have done level 1, level 2, obviously move on and read level 3. Book category author, let's see. Author William Shakespeare. Category entertainment classics. Book Macbeth, Merchant of Venice, Comedy of Errors. You see, William Shakespeare has written around 32 drama, if I'm not wrong, 32 or 34, I forget, around that number. You can pick up any, but my favorite is Macbeth, Hamlet. Hamlet I like, okay, but Macbeth is one of my favorites. Merchant of Venice is not one of my favorites, but it's an easy read, better, easier than Macbeth, Hamlet, or Othello for that matter. Othello is another one of my favorites. Comedy errors. So why did I give these 3? Because Macbeth is tragedy. You can take Macbeth or Othello or Hamlet in tragedy. Merchant of Venice is normal entertainment, and Comedy of Errors is comedy, right? Humor. So all of one of each category. So at least read if you have graduated, first read level 1, level 2. If you think that you are ready to graduate to level 3, then William Shakespeare is something which is highly recommended. One book, at least one book. You don't need to read further, read for leisure later on, but as of now, one book would be enough. Next, The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, Philosophy and Psychology, story of a man who is individual oriented, right? So a landmark of sorts when it comes to the when we look at the philosophy of capitalist, I'll not say capitalist philosophy, but the objective philosophies. Now, objective philosophy, one of the proponents had been Ayn Rand, and Fountainhead had been one of the one of the biggest landmarks in that category. Discovery of India by Jawaharlal Nehru, history of India from the ancient times till now. More than history, it's about the culture, the shaping of the society, the coming of caste system, how did it come. So it's an academic book, therefore it's a level 3 book. Sophie's World, a philosophy and psychology book. If you want to know about the philosophies of the West, Western philosophies, this is the best book, right? It's written in a fictional form. An unknown person, an unknown teacher, teaches Sophie the different kinds of philosophy from the ancient till today that has come in the Western world. Written by Jostein Gardner, one of the very highly recommended books in level 3. War and Peace, history, Leo Tolstoy, though it's a fictional story, but War and Peace is so entrenched in history that you need to get, I categorize it in history rather than in entertainment. The Brothers Karamazov, Fyodor Dostoevsky, take on culture and sociology, that time's Russian culture, the way, and it's one of the most popular books of Fyodor Dostoevsky, and if you are into level 3 books, you can obviously read it. Another highly recommended ones, green one, India After Gandhi by Ramchandra Guha. India After Gandhi by Ramchandra Guha. The history from 1947 till around 1990. So that's a huge period, and a period which has been dealt with in much detail. And many people might not agree to it, but I think Ramchandra Guha has done a very good job in India After Gandhi. One, because of the sheer scale of the task that he had taken. Two, because his writing was much more objective than the other contemporary writers that we have seen. Interpretation of dreams. If you are into philosophy and psychology, Sigmund Freud's interpretation of dreams. It's like, if you are into that, philosophy and psychology, especially psychology, then interpretation of dreams would give you the wings to fly in any kind of reading comprehension on psychology. Normally what happens in psychology passages, we become listless. But if you can understand interpretation of dreams, you will be able to understand any passage that's there on psychology, mostly. Prince by Machiavelli, Niccolo Machiavelli, again culture and sociology category. But, a lot of people know about Machiavelli or have heard about Machiavelli, but very few people know that his book Prince has been considered for around 100 years at least by the European countries as a testament of how to do administration. The last one, Ominous Parallel, Philosophy and Psychology by Leonard Peikoff, Dr. Leonard Peikoff, right? So these, the Ominous Parallel is is a look at the German society from 1800s and how it deteriorated to the stage of World War II. But though it's about the analysis of the society, it's also about more importantly analysis of the philosophy that came in and went out of the society. So I have categorized it in philosophy and psychology. So level 3, book and author list. 12 books I have listed in level 3 as my recommendation, out of which 6 are highly recommended. 6 are highly recommended. One of William Shakespeare, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, right? So, oh, I missed one. The Argumentative Indian, Culture and Sociology by Amartya Sen. This is the last one in the list. Argumentative Indian, Culture and Sociology by Amartya Sen is another book that I recommend in level 3. Okay, so 12 books I have recommended, 6 highly recommended ones. So, did you enjoy the list? I know it was a long list, but there are so many books and so many books to read. So I thought that once and for all I give you a comprehensive list and you know what to read. I have spoken a little about these books too in here, so that you know which to start off with. That would be a good starting point for you too, right? And one thing I want to ask you is that how many of the books you have read among the list, in the list that I have given, how many of the books you have read? Have you read at least 10, 15? If you haven't, start away and read the highly recommended ones first. Let's check the count. How many are recommended, how many are the highly recommended ones. Level 1, I have recommended 32 books, 14 are highly recommended. Level 2, 43 books, 19 are highly recommended. Level 3, 12 books have been recommended, 6 are highly recommended. In total I have recommended 87 books, out of which 39 are highly recommended. Now let's see these 39 books. Now a lot of people say we don't get time, but one book a week is something that we can do. If we are not in level 3, level 1, level 2, one book a week can be done. So one book a week, 1 hours a day, right? If you do not have that speed, you need to improve on your speed, right? Let's say for you I give 10 days to one book, 10 days. So 39, the highly recommended ones, and I'm sure that out of these 39 you must have read at least 10, 12, right? But even if you have not read any one of these books, 39 of these highly recommended one into 10 days, 390 days, which is 400 days. So a little more than what? A year? A little more than a year. So a year, quarter year. So this is what you take to read all the recommended ones. I mean the highly recommended ones. Okay, even if you take 10 days per book, but you will not take 10 days, because in highly recommended books there are 150 pages book, 100 pages book. You would not take as many days. So I am sure that you will be able to bring down that reading time by at least 20%. So even if you bring that by at least 20-25%, that means 300 days. So 300 days is around 9 to 10 months. So 9 to 10 months and you have read all the highly recommended ones, or you can mix and match some of the some of the not so highly recommended ones you can replace with level 3. Rather than going for level 3 1, you went for level 2 of level 2. You can do that. That's something. But 9 to 10 months is what we are looking at, right? And 9 to 10 and that's why I said, do not think short term. At least 6-7 months. In 6-7 months, you would be done with at least 25 books. So those 25 books are more than enough. If you are creating a diverse collection, that is more than enough to give you a wholesome worldview, a wholesome personal view, a wholesome cultural view. In any category, it would give a wholesome view for gift you a wholesome view. Okay, right? So where to find these books? Buy first hand, second hand, online, wherever you want to buy. Borrow them if you want from library. Every city has a library. You can go in there and have a membership. There are a lot of online libraries too nowadays. Google Library, Google itself provides a library, so you can borrow from them. But one request, don't steal them. See, the moment you steal these books, and with the coming of internet and with the coming of sharing of free data, sharing of free things, files which are copyrighted material of someone else, we do not understand that piracy is also one form of stealing. So avoid stealing. As a matter of fact, most of the books that I have written, you don't need to steal. They are part of the Gutenberg project. Now, if they are the part of the Gutenberg project, what the meaning is that they are already available through some forums in free. So go into those forums and get in there. Just type in which are the apps that are associated with Gutenberg project. You would get on the mobile apps which are associated with the Gutenberg project. Just go in there and download it. That's legal, right? You just need to read 1 or 2 lines to understand whether what you are doing is legal or not. Okay, so try and avoid stealing them, but find these books, read them, and be a good reader, be a well-read man, okay, right? Or a woman, be a well-read boy, be a well-read girl, right? Okay, so that will be all for today. Hope you start right away on these books and enjoy the journey of learning with these books. These books can teach you so many things that no teacher can teach you ever. Okay, thank you very much. That will be all for today. All the best.